Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders hammering the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus outbreak. Take a look.
But neither should we panic or fall back on xenophobia. Labeling COVID-19 a foreign virus does not displace accountability for the misjudgments that have been taken thus far by the Trump administration. The administration's failure on testing is colossal. Nor should we hide the true number of infections in hope of protecting political interest or the stock market. The markets will respond to strong, steady, and capable leadership that addresses the root of the problem, not efforts to cover it up.
We have an administration that is largely incompetent and whose incompetence and recklessness have threatened the lives of many, many people in our country. The American people deserve transparency, something that the current administration has fought day after day to stifle.
So, Dr. Saphier, let me just say that what I took away from the Biden speech was sort of that he felt, as he's the Democratic nominee, he laid out for the American people how he would respond to this issue. And on that point, he said he would expand the testing, boost hospital capacity, create an information hotline for people, and offer assistance to people who are losing their jobs. How did you react?
I mean, to me, that just sounds like Oprah. Like, we're going to do this, and you can have this, and you can have a house, you can have a school. Yes, of course we want to do that, and President Trump has said the same thing. We're going to expand testing. We're going to make sure we have enough physicians and nurses available. Everyone says certain things. I want to know how exactly you're going to do that. And, you know, listening to Bernie Sanders, he said he's going to, if this were him, he would declare a state of emergency, and he'd put together a bipartisan emergency group full of experts. What do you think the task force is? We have several doctors there. Some people have been appointed by Obama and people that have been appointed by Trump. And we have the experts working on this together. So I again, feel like that's a lot of rhetoric. And you can say that you would do these things, but they're not giving specifics. What I want from a president, I want him to tell us it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay, but the American people need to know it's going to be okay. So I liked the tone last night. There was some errors in his messaging, but I like that he said, we're going to be okay, but here's what we're doing, and here's what you need to do. I thought it was great in that sense.
Right, but I think that obviously the president is now, and this I took from his speech last night, acknowledging the severity of this crisis, whereas previously he was somewhat dismissive. Now you have a situation, Jesse, where I think that the Democrats are saying, here's what we would do. So I think that was very concrete and specific about actions they would take that the president's not discussing.
The president is discussing it, Juan. He's trying to get Nancy and Chuck in a room with Mitch and solve the problem. And that's what Wall Street wants. They want a fix. And right now, both sides in Washington won't put their knives down and fix it. Everything Joe Biden read off that teleprompter were things the president's doing. I wasn't blown away by Biden's speech at all. I'll give him this. Testing capacity is not where it needs to be. That's on the CDC. They have plenty of money. Here's the criticism. This is what Joe said, that this was a foreign-born virus. You can't say that. Virus is from China. It's a foreign country, Joe.
No. His point was, how does that help us deal with the situation?
You know what? He calls it how he sees it, Juan, and it is a foreign-born virus.
Fine.
Joe said that last month. He said it's from China.
So, but how does that help us?
What do you mean, how does that help us? It's from a foreign country. Yeah. You have foreigners coming to America, and that's why you slap a travel ban on.
It didn't originate here. It's already here.
Right, and you want to prevent it from spreading, Juan.
Right.
Obviously.
And calling a president xenophobic isn't helpful
one of the things you do in your toolbox is slap travel bans on.
Right.
The other thing he said, which was ridiculous, that the travel ban is racist and xenophobic. The travel ban that he slapped on China a month ago, every doctor now acknowledges was the right move. And the scientists agree. Last thing, real quick. During the swine flu, Biden said something that scared the entire airline industry. And Joe Gibbs, White House press secretary at the time, had to go up on the podium and apologize on behalf of Joe for scaring everybody. And he had to clean up that mess. So Joe's the last person I would want in charge during a pandemic.
Joe Gibbs was the skin coach.
I will say this, though.
Robert. I call him Joe.
Okay, all right.
Not the
Just don't
football coach.
call him the skin.
Don't call him late for dinner. I think, though, I will give credit to the Democrats. And listen, they're in a political fight. They're trying to win the nomination of their party. We are in political season. But I appreciate if a Democrat is going to be critical of the president, that they come out with their own steps, that they say, these are the 5 things I can do. So either the administration can say, we are doing that. We haven't outlined every single step we're doing. Or they can say, good, okay, yeah, how can we work that in? Would that be feasible? How would it work? Listen, though, on Capitol Hill, those folks who are already elected, got some problems there because, we hear that they're trying to chock full all kinds of riders and things into these bills that they're putting together. Both sides just need to stop it for the American people. Get it done. Get it done and get something to the president's desk. If they all got to get in the room and hash it out, don't leave Washington. Don't take a recess. I mean, get it done. But I think regardless of party, if you're offering concrete solutions, good. We need an airing of those and we need to hear how we can fix the
All right, so
problems.
Greg, I thought that, as I said, I thought there were concrete solutions in what Joe Biden had to say. The biggest one to me, and I think I hear this from the experts, is expand hospital capacity.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But the whole point of this is to compare their performance to Trump. So let's do that. Number one, neither Joe or Bernie took questions. So right there, they flunk. Because you got to think fast and you got to think with the surprises and go off script, which Trump is really good at. Number two, Biden lied. He's a liar and he's a tool. He lied when he opened the thing up and said, this isn't about politics, and spent 8 months saying that Trump was an unfit president and that he would be a president. That's politics. He also accused the president of a cover-up. That's politics. So he is a liar and a tool, and he's losing his mind before our eyes. He is unfit. It just upset me that he went to that place. Now, Trump's words could be better, but his deeds are effective. His deeds are effective enough to buy us time so that we can prepare, and also to prepare for mistakes. If we didn't have a robust economy and we didn't know ahead of time of what was coming, what would have happened with this testing fiasco, right? Fiasco? Yeah, that's a good word. Anyway, I'm going to stop because I'm getting mad.
But I wish we did. I wish he had acted.
Get mad.
Well, no, he had acted. In fact, we didn't act.
I want to say a nice thing about Bernie. I want to say a nice thing about Bernie. At least Bernie is real, and you believe what he's saying. Joe is a cardboard contraption standing up there just saying stupid things about it's racist and it's a cover-up. He doesn't know what he's saying.
Yeah, I think Wall Street thinks Trump doesn't know what he's saying.
You're an expert on Wall Street.
No,
now,
I'm just saying Wall Street. I don't have to be an expert. Wall Street had its own verdict very clearly, and the whole thing from Trump is he was saying it's not a problem. It'll pass in a few days.
All right, you can
go to
than me.
work. It's just not effective leadership.
All right.